You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158. Welcome back to another episode of 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. Today's guest is we have Dina. Is that correct?
Dina.
Dina. Okay. It is Dina, and she is an officer of one of the most famous departments, one of the most well-known departments in the state of New York City. Welcome to our podcast, and we appreciate having you on. So you can go ahead and tell your story. You could talk about what you were just about ready to tell me if you'd like. Anything you want to say, anything you want to talk about, just go right ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. So I have 14 and a half years with the NYPD. I came on in 2011, never planned on becoming a cop. I went to school for finance. I wanted to help people invest their money and save for retirement, put their kids through school. That wasn't like a situation that I grew up with. So I wanted to learn about it and help other people with it. And then in 2008, the economy tanked. There really weren't any finance jobs. My boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, was like, hey, I'm taking the NYPD test. Why don't you just take it as a backup? And I remember saying, I'm like, I don't want to be a cop. Like, I never thought about it before. So he's like, well, what are you going to work at a bank the rest of your life? And like, that was kind of my plan, but I'm like, all right, I'll take it as a backup plan. So the process took 3 years. We swore in July of 2011, but during the 3 years, we had gotten engaged. So while we were processing, investigators were like, listen, it doesn't look good for 2011. This was in spring of 2011. So the January class was already in. They were like, the July class looks full. Plan on January of 2012. So we were like, that's perfect. We'll plan our wedding. We'll get married in 2011. So we had our wedding planned for August. Then we were going to take a honeymoon in like November, December, somewhere we could go skiing, and then finish out the year. January of 2012, we would start the police academy. It was the perfect plan, right? And then July 4th of 2011, we both got a phone call, and it was like, if you want this job, you will be in Brooklyn swearing in 2 days on July 6th. And we were like, oh shit. All right, I guess we're doing this. So we swore in July of 2011. We started the academy, and then we were like, we have a wedding planned for next month. Like, can we get the day off? Because we have all these people coming and everything's like, we didn't think we were going to be here. So they were like, yeah, of course. Like we got married on a Friday. We had the day off. We got married. We didn't go anywhere over that weekend because Monday we came back and we had to take we had to do our physical exam, like the obstacle course. So whatever. Then we graduated in December of 2011. We both went to Manhattan North, but we were on opposite shifts. So like and our vacations never lined up. We never took a honeymoon. 14 and a half years later, here we are. But so we didn't have field training when I started. They called it Operation Impact, which is like a foot post in a high crime shooting prone location, just throw us out there. But it was fine. We learned. We made it fun. I did that for like 6 months, maybe. No, I did that for a year. And then I got transferred in the middle of Hurricane Sandy, which was a madhouse up here in the Northeast, especially in New York. Like there was so much flooding and so much devastation. We were doing 12-hour days. But in the middle of that chaos, I got transferred to my permanent command. It's the 19th precinct on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. I worked there for 10 years. I did patrol. And then when I was pregnant and I had my 3 children, I got moved to like an admin spot. So I mostly did admin until I was able to become a peer counselor full time. And then I've been doing that for like the last 4 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. And how did you get involved with the Thin Line Rock Station?
I've been following them on Instagram for a while, and I connected with Jason because I saw this reel that he posted about Foo Fighter songs. So I reposted it and we started talking and I said, hey, I just started this podcast. Do you have any interest in coming on and being a guest? Like, I would love to have you. And I actually had just listened to your podcast, the episode that he did for you guys. So I was like, all right, he knows he does podcast interviews. So I asked him, and after the interview, he was like, I think this would be a good fit for you. Are you interested in doing, in being a DJ? And I'm like, get the hell out of here. Like, I would love to, but I'm like, there's no way you're being serious right now. He's like, no, really. Is it all right? I'll give the station manager your information. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, cause normally that's like, yeah, I'll just pass your info along and then nothing ever happens. But sure enough, James reached out and he was like, would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, hell yeah, that would be amazing. So I've been doing that like the last few weeks. I love it. Yeah.
We had been actually, I'd followed the Finland Rock Station for a while on our TikTok page, and we were doing a patch trade. We're still doing a patch trade,
Oh,
and we do have challenge coins and stuff that we trade. And James had reached out and said, "I have some patches for you, but I got a challenge if you guys want to accept it." And he wanted me to come on there. And at first, we were kind of confused as to what he wanted, and he offered the DJ spot, and I did it. And I've never done any kind of DJing whatsoever. The podcast thing was the first thing I did. I've only been doing it for a year because we started it the first January 1st of 25, and I've been on the DJ spot, and I got, obviously I got 2 4-hour spots on the, Midline Rock Station, and I actually had been given the opportunity, and Jason was on my heart. I was thinking about it, and I'm, like, thinking about, "Well, we need more DJs. Seems like we don't have enough DJs," so I had reached out to James and asked him, I was like, "Look, I know a guy. He has a presence, great voice. He was on my podcast. He's a great guy. I think he'd be a good fit for the Thin Line Rock Station." And I gave him the information. They talked, and ever since then, he's been a great. Jason has been a great asset to the rock station.
it's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and obviously, I got my wife convinced her to do it, and James was more than happy to put her on there as well.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love her merch, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, she does a great job with all that stuff. She creates all the merch for us and also the other projects that we have going on. She does the merch for that as well.
I wish I was that creative.
She is a busy bee, that one. She can't sit still.
That's good. That's good.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. So you've been on the NYPD for, you said, about 14 years. What's the craziest kind of calls that you've ever been on when you were on patrol?
I would say specific calls or like
Just in general.
Anything involving a kid for me was tough.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of like specifics. The craziest time I think to be a cop was during the riots in 2020. That was like it almost wasn't even real. It was like you were an extra on a movie set. Like it's like there's no way that human beings are actually doing this to each other. Like this cannot be real. Like you had to kind of disassociate for a while. Thank God my father-in-law was able to come up and stay with my kids because my husband and I were both working 12-hour shifts. Like we had enough time to come home, grab a few hours of sleep and a shower, and then we had to go back to work. So that whole time was crazy, I would say. And even during Superstorm Sandy, because that was like, I was very new on the job, and all of that devastation and all of that flooding, and that was like the first time that I ever had any experience with that. So I think that was pretty crazy too.
For them to deal with when it comes to children. Very hard situation. I can imagine it's very hard. And we definitely applaud you and thank you for your service and what you are doing. And you are a peer support specialist now for your department.
Yeah, so I got into that work in 2019. I was still like on patrol and admin in my permanent command at the 19 precincts. But we had it's called a contagion of suicide. So like we had 10 active duty members of service die by suicide that year. That doesn't even include the retirees. I don't even know if we were keeping track. But once that happened, the department was like, all right, we really need to do something. So this peer support program was created. And in my personal life before I became a cop, I lost a family friend to suicide. And then after I went through the academy, 2 weeks after I graduated, one of the guys in my company died by suicide. And that kind of thing always stays with you. Like I will never forget his funeral and having to watch his parents bury their son. We had all the police science and we had the shooting and the driving and like all the tactical stuff. There really wasn't a lot of there's no way to prepare for what you're going to see on this job. But there wasn't any sense of like, make sure you maintain relationships outside of the job or like, keep up with your self-care. I know self-care has become such a buzzword lately, but like taking care of yourself and maintaining an identity outside of this job. So the story that we were told with the guy in my company was that he was out after work. They went out, him and his squad mates went out to a bar to hang out, whatever. And he was driving home, singular vehicle accident, property only. He struck a guardrail and his front license plate fell off. So I guess the car behind him called 911 thinking that, he was hurt or something. I don't know. It was outside of New York City. He lived in a small town outside of the city. So the local police department responded, ran the license plate, showed up at his house to make sure that he was okay, that he made it home. And he thought it was the NYPD coming to either fire him or get him in trouble. We call it jammed up. So he went upstairs and he shot himself with a service weapon. Yeah, that was really difficult. So when the opportunity came up to take extra training and share mental health resources with other coworkers, I couldn't get involved quickly enough. Like I was always that kind of person who checks in on people and just makes conversation just because you never know what somebody's going through. And I never want anybody to feel like they're invisible, like nobody even cares enough to say, hello, how you doing, So once I had this extra training, I did that for a few years. And then 2021, the end of 2021, I moved to we call it Employee Assistance Unit. It's like an EAP. And so we do that full time for the department. Now, in that training, it wasn't until I went through that training that I realized that I needed therapy myself. Because at the end of 2020, of course, as if there wasn't enough going on that year, I almost lost my daughter, my oldest, in a school bus accident. So she was on her way to school, sitting behind the bus driver, and the bus was hit head on by a tree trimming truck. It was trailering a wood chipper, and I guess the wood chipper threw the truck off balance. He crossed the double yellow, hit the bus head on. So, sorry, I still get a little choked up when I talk about it. My husband and I were both at work, and I get a text message from my babysitter. It's like our local fire department has like a Facebook feed where they tell all the calls that they're responding to. So she saw the address and she was like, this is Megan's bus route. Do you want me to go and check it out and see what's going on? No sooner did I get that text message that my phone rings and it was the school district. And so I answered it and it was like, hey, Mrs. Campbell, this is the superintendent. We just want to let you know there was a bus accident involving your daughter's bus. Most of the students were walked off the bus, minor bumps and bruises. Your daughter's currently pinned in the bus. She's sitting behind the bus driver. We don't know her condition at this time. Emergency crews are working on cutting the bus driver out of the bus, and then they will get to your daughter. Meet me at this hospital. That was the only information that I had. So I called my husband, told him what happened. At this point, I was like in shock. And my sergeant was like, go, whatever you need, go. I was going to drive my own car. Now I live an hour north of the city. So he was like, absolutely not. They put me in a radio car. One guy drove me up and the other, his partner, drove my car up to the hospital. And I really don't remember. I made phone calls. Like I called my mom. I called my sisters. They told me. I don't even remember. I just remember praying the whole way. I was like, please, like, God, if you just spare her, like, I'll take my kids to mass every Sunday. I'll do whatever you want. Like, just don't let her die. So I get to the hospital. She was on a gurney She was in the trauma center. They were treating her injuries, but they hadn't cleaned her up yet. So she was all bloodied. She had glass everywhere in her hair. Her face was all swollen. And she looked at me. And as soon as I saw her, she just started to cry. And she was like, "Why did this happen to me?" And I was like, okay, well, she's crying. So she's alive and alert. Thank God. Right. But she needs me right now. Like, I can't break down in this moment. I wanted to. She shattered my heart into a million pieces. But, you know, I went into cop mode. She was a child that was in an accident, and I started cleaning her up. I started trying to determine the extent of her injuries. Um, she needed to be transferred to a children's hospital with a trauma center because she needed a surgery. She had like a deep gash on her leg. So when the bus was hit, the back of the bus driver's seat came down and kind of pinned her in place, which was a small miracle because she wasn't thrown about the bus, but she had a really deep cut on her leg from the seat. So they had to close it up. But because of the healing process, it could be complicated. So they didn't want any complications with the healing. So we put her in an ambulance. We get down to the trauma center, and like, she was 6 years old at the time. So they get her out of the back of the ambulance, and she's looking at every doctor, asking them their name, what the tool is that they were using, what they were doing, for it. And this was the end of October. It was like October 21st. So she told them, "I need to be home by Halloween because I have to go trick or treating." Like, she was all busted up. And that was her biggest priority, was getting home to go trick or treating. So she had a surgery. She was home a few days later. She did end up going trick or treating. We pushed her, my middle child, her sister, insisted on trying to push her wheelchair around the neighborhood. And I cannot even tell you, they got like a mountain of candy that year. Like, it was insane the amount of candy that they got. But yeah, so after that, we got home. She was home, and as she was recovering, I couldn't sleep. Like, I was up in the middle of the night mopping the floors because I just had all this restless energy. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. I got a smartwatch. I had to have my phone at 100% all the time, had to be fully charged. I couldn't miss a phone call because, God forbid, the school was calling me again. Yeah, and sometimes, like, the school did call. It was like one of those, we have snow days up here in New York, so it was like an automated message from the school. It was like a snow day, or the school nurse because somebody has a cold or whatever it was. But anytime the school district's number would pop up on my phone, I would start to panic. I had to bring my phone everywhere with me. My watch had to be fully charged. I would panic all the time. But I kept telling myself, when she gets better, I'll make time for me. But right now I have to take care of her. So I kind of just dove into like taking care of her and making sure that she was healing. And then I told myself, which was partially true, that as she was healing, I would heal emotionally. But I didn't realize that I still had a lot to work through. So when I got to my unit now and I started going through the critical incident training and all of that, the scenario that I got that I had to practice debriefing was a school bus accident with a fatality. So as soon as I get the scenario, now obviously the instructor had no idea. He didn't know me. He didn't know what was going on. I never said anything. I don't even think my coworkers knew because I had just got to this unit and I didn't want to get kicked out, right? I thought they were going to say like, "Oh no, you have too much on your plate. You can't help anybody else right now." So I never said anything. And now I'm in this scenario and I can start to feel like my chest gets tight. My heart starts racing again. Like, I'm like sweating. And then I'm like, okay, you pushed it down for this long. It's been over a year at this point. You can suck it up for 15 more minutes and get through this scenario. And then in 15 minutes, like, once the class is over, you can figure it out later. I couldn't suck it up for 15 minutes. I broke down crying as soon as I started to talk. The instructor felt so bad. And again, like, he was like, "I didn't know." I said, "Of course you didn't know. Like, there's no way. It just worked out that way." So he takes me out of the classroom and he performs this type of therapy called EMDR, where like he waved his finger. And again, I don't know the science of it. I'm not a doctor. If you had told me that this was a real type of therapy that actually worked before I tried it, I would have been like, "Get the hell out of here. This is like hippie nonsense. What are you even talking about?" but it really worked. It got me to like calm down. I wasn't having a panic attack anymore. And that's when I realized that I couldn't help anybody else until I dealt with all of my stuff first. So I was still in the training. We had like I think it was a 3 or 6 month probationary period when we first, like when you first get to a new unit. If for some reason it doesn't work out, then you just get sent back. So I was still like probationary in my new unit. But I said to my lieutenant, I'm like, listen, I am going to therapy. Is it possible, like Wednesdays was my therapy day? I'm like, is it possible that I can just get out on time on Wednesdays so I can go to therapy? And I didn't want to tell her. I didn't use department resources, even though I was training to become an EAP, because I thought that I was going to get kicked out of my unit. But she was like, no, it's fine. Of course, you can, whatever you need. She was so supportive. And I was like, okay, wow, these guys really mean it. Like they're the real deal, because if they're going to support me that way, then they're going to look out for other members too. But I remember on the intake call with the therapist, I was like, is this line being recorded? Like, I thought she was going to send the recording of the call to my job. I thought that they were going to get some sort of alert, even though I was using my private insurance, that I was going to therapy. She was like, I said to her, I'm like, do I have to tell my supervisor now that I'm in therapy? She's like, would you tell them that you were going to the dentist? I'm like, no. She's like, same thing. You don't have to say anything. I don't have to say anything. I talk about it openly now because I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're so stuck or they're so isolated and they're in this dark place and they're by themselves and there's nobody, there's nothing that will be able to help them, because help is always available. And I don't want anybody to be afraid of like any career repercussions or anything like that.
Right. That's one of the things that we had come across starting doing the podcast. And I know my cousin, he's a very humble guy and he would not want all the attention on him. But one of the things that we had come across was a lot of the mental health issues and the suicides with our first responders and a lot of things that had gone on and the stigma behind mental health issues. And we quickly realized that that was something that he would want us to focus on because he cared about his brothers and sisters in blue. Also, other first responders as well, because that's the kind of person he was.
Mm.
So that's why we focused and we shift our focus to that very quickly.
I love
And
that.
so we wanna get that out there, and we wanna make sure that our first responders, especially the ones that are going through it now and don't feel like they have a way out or have any other resources, we want them to know that you're not alone, that there
Exactly.
are resources. You just gotta reach out.
And that's
And
why I
that's why
always
I
tell
always tell
people,
people,
I
I
so I
so
live
I live
outside of the
outside of the
city, and
city,
a
and
lot
a
of
lot of
my
my
local fire departments are volunteer, EMS is volunteer, police departments are paid by the town, but they're a lot smaller. They don't have access to a lot of resources. So like whenever I can share resources or share information, I'm whatever I can do to help, truly, because I know that not everybody works for such a large police department with access to a lot of resources, but they still need the same support that anybody else does.
Exactly. They deserve that support, and, like, one of the things that we do is we do, on our podcast, we invite other, like, first responder informed, uh, therapists, psychologists. They come on and tell their stories and how they treat, uh, the mental health and PTSI and all that stuff, and some do EMDR, and they kinda explain that. We had a guy on here, his name is Dan Jarvis. He runs, um, uh, healingthehero.org. He's in Florida. He's a former combat veteran and a, sheriff's deputy, and he does an organization that helps first responders get better and to how to cope with dealing with those kind of traumas and stuff like that. Um, he's a great guy, and his organization is free. And they've been doing studies on what they're doing. And I had 4 sessions with him because I have severe panic attacks from childhood traumas and compounding traumas on my own, and it seems to help. But you know, I'm still taking my medications, but The one thing is when I have my attacks, I know how to cope with them, and I know how to deal with them to get them to reverse and change
Yes.
my
Yes.
frame of thinking.
That's
That's
actually kind
actually
of how
kind of how
outside the
outside
line
the
came
line came
around
around. Okay.
because
Because
I
I
spend a lot
spend a
of
lot of
time
time
doing
doing
CISM
CISM
debriefings
debriefings
and
and
talking to
talking to
people.
people.
And I
And I
always make a
always make
point
a
of
point of
asking
asking
them,
them,
what do you
what do
do
you do
outside of the
outside of the
job? What are
job?
your
What are your
hobbies? What are
hobbies?
your
What are your
interests?
interests?
I call
I
it
call
staying
it staying
anchored.
anchored.
How do you
How do you
stay
stay
anchored
anchored?
to the real world? Because the fact is, one of these days, the uniform comes off for the last time. Hopefully, it's God willing at the end of a very long career, and you get to go out on your own terms with a long and healthy retirement. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes, for whatever reason, we leave before retirement, whether it's a medical retirement or whatever reason, the uniform comes off. We're not prepared. We don't know who we are as a person. And that transition can be very, very difficult for people. And having a sense of self, a strong sense of self outside of this job also helps us cope with the stresses while we're in it. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, I mean, I don't know the statistics for all first responders, but I know for police specifically, on average, we only live 5 to 7 years after retirement. So, like, the goal is you bust your ass for all of this time to collect a pension. But if we're not taking care of ourselves in the process, we're only living 5 to 7 years to collect that pension and spend time with the people who matter to us the most. Like, why wait until retirement? We should start doing that now.
Right. And I do believe that the statistics for other first responders are around about the same.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because of the stress and the traumas and, it's like their purpose has ended.
Yes, exactly. I hear that a lot from retired guys.
So, what's one of the ways that you would recommend somebody who is a first responder and has retired or has had some kind of incident to where their purpose has ended in that field? What do you recommend that they do afterwards? What kind of activities or any kind of help or treatment or anything like that?
It's very common, especially within the first year of retirement, to have panic attacks, insomnia, not be able to sleep, and then sometimes suicide because the things that we don't deal with while we're working, we can distract ourselves with work every day, but when you're retired, it's just you and your thoughts. So that can be really scary. Finding support, for me, that's my faith comes first. Finding a social support is big for me. But any hobbies, especially ones where you have to move your body, whether that, I don't know, whatever that, even cooking, chopping food, chopping wood, gardening, like whatever, something outside, going for a walk, being mindful. And that's again, that might sound like hippie. Mindfulness has become a big buzzword, but that just means like paying attention, being where your feet are. I always say like be here now. That's the motto that I used that helps me when my anxiety train starts to go off the rails. I'm like, all right, take a deep breath and just be here now. Like, where are you right now? Having hobbies that you stay connected to while you're working can help you in retirement because now you have something to do. Maybe it turns into a side hustle and you can supplement your income. Maybe it turns into a social support because you meet other people who are doing the same thing. It can really be a pillar of resilience for when you're retired. I'm a big advocate for therapy. I know that's not everybody's thing, but there's so much that we're exposed to in our line of work that talking to somebody, like you mentioned before, somebody who's culturally competent, who understands, even if they haven't been a first responder themselves, somebody who understands the nature of first responder work. And we don't realize how many resources, a lot of them are free or discounted, that are available to us like all over the country virtually. You don't have to go anywhere, or locally. There's a lot of local resources that people don't even realize are out there. A lot of like fraternal order of police or VFWs, they have access to resources. I would reach out to a local chapter if you're looking to start and you don't know where.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that first responders can do. They just have to be able to find it, and it has to be made known because a lot of them don't know, or they can Google it, but I don't know, what goes on in their minds afterwards after the job's over. So I couldn't really say specifically. I haven't been in that situation. I can only say from my own experience. I mean, it took me 40 something years to get help. after my own problems.
Yeah, and we don't realize stuff from childhood, like, that all stays with us if we don't deal with it. Some of that stuff came up when I was in therapy too. I'm like, "Really? I thought this was, like, from years ago. Why are we talking about this now?" But, like, it affects you. And that's why my whole goal is to just normalize these conversations. We all go through things. We're all human beings. There's only so much that we can hold on to. I was talking to a retired guy the other day who had a great analogy. He's like, all of the things that we see, it's like carrying around a bag of rocks. You retire, that bag of rocks is still on your back. You may not be adding to it, but you're still carrying the rocks that you gathered throughout your career. So therapy is a way of unpacking all of that so you're not holding on to it.
Right. Get rid of it.
Hmm.
That's one thing that I hope that most first responders will get and understand, even though there's stigma behind it. If you let it go and you talk about it, it will help you in the long run.
Exactly. Like people don't know where to turn and they don't know what resources are out there because we don't talk about it enough. Like the goal is to create a community, at least for me, and it sounds like for you, where people can just say, listen, I'm not okay right now. I'm struggling with this thing. Where can I go for help? And then other people, instead of saying, suck it up, have a drink, go cheat on your wife or your husband or whatever, you'll feel better after that. Saying, hey, this is normal. This is very common. Thank you for sharing this with me. Here's what worked for me, or here are some resources, just changing the nature of the conversation.
One of the things that we did to help is we started the nonprofit organization, the William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation, and a lot of the proceeds will go to mental health services to help first responders. But also, uh, I'm not a licensed therapist, but we do have a hotline that is directed to my phone personally. So if anybody wants to call and talk to me, if they just want me to sit there and shut up and listen, I'll answer the phone and shut up and listen.
I love that because, again, I'm a big advocate for therapy, but also sometimes the most effective way to reach somebody initially, especially if they're resistant to therapy, is just being a human being and saying, you know what? I may not be able to relate to your exact struggle, but I can relate to feeling alone and struggling in silence. So let me just sit here and be a presence for you. Like people don't need us to be perfect. They just need us to be present with them because I don't want anybody to feel like they're alone.
Exactly. That seems like to be the norm is that they always feel like they're alone. And one of our things with the podcast and some of the merch that we have is it says you are not alone because you're not,
I love
whether
that.
it's other first responders or people like us that support first responders and know and have a good idea of what you're going through.
Sometimes we need the reminder. I mean, at the end of my podcast, well, my sign off is in case you haven't heard today, you matter, you are loved, and you are not alone. Because I feel like we don't hear that enough. Maybe that's the only time somebody might hear those words that day. So I'll say it as often as I have to.
And your podcast, what is it called again?
Well, yeah, it's called Outside the Line. And it's ironic because as much as I talk about staying anchored outside the real world, I had like my own kind of identity crisis at work of sorts last year. And I was sent to it's facility dog handler training. So like to have a therapy dog for my department. So the opportunity presented itself because one of the detectives who was a handler was retiring. And I was like, all right, well, it has to be a family decision because I had to go away for 2 weeks to this training. So my husband is also on the job. He's a sergeant. So the burden of childcare, running the house, working, all of the things were falling on him. So we had to make sure like we had our childcare arrangements if he got stuck, and then of course, like for me, I had a lot of anxiety about being away from my kids for 2 weeks. And I went through a fantastic training program, puppies behind bars. So I was in prison. The handlers in training were in prison because the incarcerated people were the puppy raisers. So they taught the puppies all the commands and they trained us how to handle the puppies. But during the day, there was no cell phone contact. So, like, that was a huge source of anxiety for me in the beginning. But everybody was on board. Like I had my family support. So I went to this training for 2 weeks. I got the dog. It was a beautiful black lab named Thunder. He was so sweet. Brought him back. I had him for like a week. And then Friday afternoon, my sergeant calls me and she's like, I'm really sorry. There was an issue with the paperwork. Your training wasn't actually approved. You have to bring the dog back. Can you bring the dog back today? And I said, no, because my kids are still in school. I can't just tell them that the dog was sent back and not let them say goodbye. I'll bring him back on Monday. So they got home. I mean, they knew that he was a working dog. They knew that he belonged to the department, but like they still fell in love with him right away. You know, they're kids. So they were heartbroken. We had one last weekend with him. Monday morning was horrible. They all said goodbye. Everybody's crying. So like I had to break their hearts and then send them to school and then pick up the pieces. You know what I mean? Like it was so hard. So I brought him back that Monday and he went back into their training program. And I believe he is now a service dog, like a one-on-one service dog for a disabled veteran, which makes me so happy because now like he has a happy ending. The veteran who got him, who needed him, also has a happy ending. So like I'm so happy for them. At work for me, the way I thought my career was going to go was just ripped out from under me. So I had like an identity crisis. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not a dog handler anymore. So like, who am I? What am I doing? I still teach peer support. I'm still doing this peer counselor work, but I just felt like I didn't really belong anywhere for a period of time. Whether or not that was true, that's just how I felt. So I dug deep and I was like, all right, well, what? Obviously, I can't control much at all of what happens at work, right? All I can control is my attitude when I walk in the door. So I made sure that I put my best foot forward for everybody else who may have needed me. And I made intentional time to take care of myself outside of work, to like rediscover things that I enjoyed doing, spend intentional time with my kids and my husband. And through my own journey and the conversations that I was having with other people, I had the idea for this podcast. So I was sitting on it since like March. And I was like, nobody's going to want to listen to another podcast. What could I possibly have to talk about? Like, I'm not really an expert in anything, but I love having conversations with people. And more listening to people. You know, I love when people open up and you can hear them start to work through things as they're talking. And I believe everybody has a story. And I want to hold space for people who feel comfortable sharing their story on their own terms, you know, so that nobody else can tell their story. They can tell it the way they want it to be heard. So finally, in December, one of my friends, I was talking to her because she has a podcast and I was like picking her brain. And she's like, Dina, just shit or get off the pot at this point. Like, just do it or don't do it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm just going to do it. So that's how it started.
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most. Behind every badge is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
That's awesome. I'm glad you started doing that. And
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, it wasn't easy for us either. I'd never myself done a podcast. I barely listened to podcasts until my wife talked me into listening to podcasts. And when she suggested that I do a podcast, because I told her after this happened with my cousin, I was like, we need to do something about this. We need to be active about this. We need to do something. And she had mentioned podcasts, and I told her she was crazy. And
And look at you now.
yeah, I mean, this will be on season 3, so
That's awesome.
still kind of new at it, but how we did it is we started with family, and I was the first one. I was the first episode to talk about my story, who I was, how I started the podcast, why I started the podcast, and then the second episode was my cousin's wife. She was reluctant at first. She wanted to think about it, and then she did it, and it was a hard one to listen to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then obviously, my cousin Christy, Billy's sister, hers was next. And then we did Mike. And then we had Josh, who was my cousin's brother in law. He was also a former veteran as well. And yeah, that's the way we started it. And then I started doing the cold calls on TikTok and trying to drag people in.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and people started coming in, and at first we started off at once a week, and then we went to twice a week because we had so many coming in, and then it slowed down again, so now we're like at once a week. So
Yeah, my goal is every other week, but I have a lot of right now, I have a lot of like recorded episodes that haven't aired yet. So I'm like, do I go to every week? But like, is that going to burn me out? Am I going to get stressed because I don't have enough interviews? Like, I don't know. So I'm sticking with every other week for now.
yeah, what works for you, but just keep doing it. We just did twice a week because there were so many coming in, and people were asking us, "When is our episode gonna air?" And we're like, "Oh,
That's
crap."
great.
So we just started running them, and then we slowed down, so we just run them once a week, and we try to keep that up. It does get a little stressful, but, we manage, and if we have to do filler episodes, we'll do filler episodes because we do, memorial episodes for officers who lost their life in the line of duty or firefighters or stuff like
I
that.
love that.
Just stuff like that. And I make my wife, she does the narration for those, so she's
Oh,
my
that's a great
co-host.
idea.
Yeah, she's on here sometimes, sometimes she's not. She's busy doing, some of our other projects, so
Well, that's cool. I started, I think I just found like friends that I connected with through social media, like just talking about this stuff. Cause I didn't even want to talk about the fact that I was a cop on social media in the beginning. I was like, oh, especially after 2020, like and the anti police culture. And I'm like, I don't know. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? It's not really about me because maybe somebody else listening might hear something that resonates with them. So the more I started talking about it, I started meeting people. And actually, I was talking to a coworker the other day. Her father was killed in the line of duty. So she's coming on. And actually, my two oldest, they're 11 and no, I'm lying, almost 12 and 10. I had to think for a minute. They were like, you know what? Why don't you have us on? Like, we'll talk about what it's like to be the children of police. And I was like, that's going to be a tough one to hear, but I think that could be a really cool conversation. I'm still trying to convince my husband to come on, so we'll see.
yeah, hopefully he comes on your podcast one of these days, and, you know,
Oh, for sure. I would love to.
it'd be nice to see. I mean, getting your spouse involved, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um, it took me a while to convince Brienne to get on the radio station, but I did.
She's a natural.
Yeah, I know. She is a natural, and, we have fun doing it. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, so is there, like, any other kind of, thing you would like to share with us? Like, uh, do you do any other projects or anything like that that you'd like to promote or anything like that?
Well, you can find me on the Thin Line Rock Station on Sundays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And also that radio show is called Outside the Line, which is the same name as my podcast because I can't keep track of all these different things. I can barely keep track of my kids' ages. Like, there's no way I'm going to remember a radio show and a podcast. So I just kept everything the same. But if you want to connect with me, I'm so happy to share resources truly. Like if you need somebody to listen, or if you have a question and you don't want to go through your own department or a local agency, I'm happy to share peer support information, like whatever somebody needs to connect them with a resource. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, Dena Campbell, um, Outside the Line Pod, or Flawed Yet Faithful on Instagram.
Yeah, did everybody get that? They might
I'll
have
send
to
you the
stop.
links if you want to link it.
Yeah, if you could send me any kind of links or anything like that so that when we do put the podcast out there and we do the description, all your links will be in the description so that people can
Awesome.
look it up. We do that for everybody. Um, so yeah, that helps us too to add that to descriptions because we want everybody to get as many resources as they possibly can come across.
Exactly.
So when they come on the podcast and they see the podcast, they look at the descriptions, they can reach out. They can reach out to you. They can reach out to Jan Jarvis. They can reach out to some of our psychiatrists that we have on here. Not psychiatrists, but psychologists. I got yelled at the one of the podcasts by a psychologist because I called her psychiatrist.
I
She
know they're
deals with
very
She
sensitive.
doesn't deal with medications. She's a
Yes,
psychologist. She was just kidding, but that
I
was
know.
straight up. Uh,
We have department psychologists, and I always get it mixed up, and they always they like to break my chops,
yeah.
but they correct me, and I'm like, "I'm sorry,"
Yeah, I get them mixed up sometimes too, and I
all
try
the
to
time.
have to think about it because I have the brain parts.
Yes.
But, do you have any other stories to tell us or anything else you wanna share with us? Um,
Not a specific story, but I would say there's nothing more rewarding for me than in the work that I do now when somebody reaches out to me in a crisis and then holding their hand, not, you know what I mean, like supporting them as they walk through their journey. Because I can give you all of the resources and all of the information, which I'm happy to do. I can't heal for you. Like it has to be something that that person decides to do. But when they go through that healing process, seeing where they were when they started, and then they come back and I run into them down the road years later and they're doing so well, there's nothing more rewarding than that for me. It almost feels selfish to me because I get so much gratification from seeing somebody thriving now when they were in such a dark place before that they saw no other way out.
right. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, we do have a lot of first responders, so if you are looking for content, we can forward your information to some of the guys and
Please.
gals that have been on our podcast, and, they'd be more than happy to probably get on your podcast as well.
I'd love to have you guys on too.
Yeah, that would be great.
Sorry, that's my ferocious golden doodle. I don't know if you can hear him in the
Yeah,
background.
I heard it.
Sorry.
That's alright. We got 2 mutts of our own. We have a full pit bull and, an Australian Shepherd pit,
Oh, nice.
and, we saved one from an abusive home. He was only, like, 3 months old, and he was abused. His his actual owner surrendered him to us, um, because her live-in boyfriend was abusing both of them.
Oh, wow.
So she thought it would be best to let somebody else take care of him because he was using him as a punching bag.
Oh,
And,
that's good. I mean,
we
for you guys that you guys
yeah,
took him in.
yeah. In fact, let me tell you this story about how we got these dogs real quick. I was in Indianapolis because everybody knows that I'm a truck driver and I drive for a pallet company, great company. Uh, I was in Indianapolis and I was on the phone. Brianna had called me. She said, and we hadn't even bought our house yet. It was just not even finished being built yet. They were just wrapping up, doing the finishing touches. This was back in August, and it was 2 weeks before we were gonna move in to our house that we bought, and, I get a call from Brianne, and she's like, Stacy's sister brought the dog in, and she wants to she's looking for a home for him because he's in a bad place." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, I really don't want any animals. We just bought this brand new house. We gotta try to get it, keep this house as long as we can. And, dogs can be destructive, especially puppies. And she's like, "Well, he's been in an abusive home and she really wants to find him a home." And I was like, "Well, let me think about it." And then she started telling me more and more about what happened. And I was like, "Okay, we'll take the dog." She said, "Okay, she'll bring him by Friday." And then she had told me what this guy had done. This guy was a supposed biker gang or whatever, real tough guy. He would take the puppy by the throat and punch him in the stomach in front of all of his biker buddies, and they would just sit there and laugh. And when she told me that, I had said, "No, we are not gonna take him Friday. We are gonna take him now. Let's get the puppy, get him to our house. Let's take him now."
Aw.
So she called, her coworker friend, and she told her she had got a hold of her sister, and she brought her back, or she brought Chewy back. He's a boy, and, we named him Chewy, and she brought him back that very day. He was such a cute, adorable little puppy. Should have called him Houdini because he got out of everything that we put him in. He didn't wanna be locked up. Um, but he's such a great dog, and he was so adorable. He's still a good dog. He's a brat sometimes. He likes to cuddle with us at night in bed. Duke,
That's so
however,
cute.
he is a massive pit bull, and he was surrendered to the dog pound. And, our the lady that trains our dog, Chewy, had posted pictures on Facebook, and Brienne had sent me a picture of him, and he looked just like Chewy, he's just a lot bigger. Got a big fat head. Um, when he was in the pound, they did not know his name, so they called him Ryder. I did not like that name at all. Um, However, I seen the picture, and I texted Brienne back, and I was like, "Chewy needs a brother." And she's like, "No, he doesn't." And I was like, "Yes, he does." And at that time, the the dog pound was overflowing, so our dog trainer was boarding the pit bull at the time, and she was kind of fostering him. So we went to go meet him. We got a hold of Danielle. We went to meet Duke, and we brought Chewy with us to introduce him. And I knelt down in front of Duke, and he came up and he licked me on the chin. And I'm like, he's coming home with us."
Right now.
And she's like, "If you wanna foster him for a while, see how it goes, you'd be fine, until the adoption papers go through or whatever." And I'm like, "No, he's not coming back." So we took him
Aw.
home that day. He came home with us, and ever since then, they've been and pit bull, people have a bad rap with pit bulls because Duke, that's what we named him. I'm a Western fan. I love the Duke. We named him Duke. He looks like a Duke, and he's such a lover. He is such a lover. He loves to give kisses. He's got a big, fat, slobbery face, but
Aw.
uh, I literally have to tuck this guy in at night in a blanket, and then we both have him give him kisses at
That's
night.
so cute.
Yes, and he's a big babe, just a giant babe, and it was pretty sad. When we first brought him home, we had to put him in the kennel just to kinda get him acclimated to his new surroundings, and I felt so bad that I did not wanna put him in the kennel, and he was up pacing in the kennel, so I decided to get up and lay down next to him on our floor, and we have, like, hard floors, like, the panel floors or whatever,
Mhm.
and I laid next to him, and I fell asleep next to him. My wife had to wake me up and bring me in the bedroom because I
She had
laid
to
there
tuck you
next.
both in.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, so ever since then, we've had the dogs, and they've been destructive as heck, but, we still love them, and they love to
That's
cuddle,
awesome.
and Duke thinks he's a big, giant lap dog, so he'll get on your lap and just lay across you.
That's so cute. For a week, I had Thor and Thunder. It was like you couldn't make it up. It was so funny,
Right.
but we still have Thor.
Well, at least you have one of them. I mean, you can always get another.
It's funny because we weren't looking for a dog. Our babysitter has like a side business where she pet sits while the kids are in school, like she walks dogs and stuff. And over the summer, one of her clients, they had puppies. Of course, the kids fall in love, and they were begging us for this dog, and he was the last one of the litter. So we're like, all right, we ended up taking him, and he was like this dark red color. And my little guy, my son, he's 8. He was like, "Oh, if we ever get a dog, I'm gonna name him Rusty." And I'm like, "Oh, perfect. Like the dark, like dark red golden doodle. You can name him Rusty. Like, I'm like, what are you going to name him, bud? And he goes, Thor. I'm like, he's a golden doodle. You're going to name him Thor? He's like, yeah, that's a cool name. I'm like, all right. So that's how we got his name.
That's pretty awesome. We like Thor too.
Yeah, he's the most ironically named dog because I mean, he has, I don't know, you heard his bark. He sounds intimidating, but like he's just a big mush. He loves to lick and give kisses. He loves pets. He's like a terrible guard dog, but a great family dog.
Right. Yeah, we have terrible guard dogs. They bark at everything, but
Yes.
when it comes down to it, they run. It's funny. Yeah, it is hilarious. But that's pretty much all I have for you today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? You want to plug your podcast again or anything that you want to do? Feel free to do that.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I would love to. Check out the podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, like all major streaming platforms. It's called Outside the Line. My radio show, Outside the Line, is on the Thin Line Rock Station, Sundays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And then you can find me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as Dena Campbell, Instagram, Outside the Line Podcast, and Flawed Yet Faithful. That's my personal Instagram.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, you could email us your links and we could
Sure.
schedule with you. If you want my wife on there, she can come on there too.
Definitely.
You can interview us both. We'll be on separate computers though.
Okay.
She has her own office. I have mine, so it's just easier that way.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So, this is Dina, everybody. Dena Campbell, one of the most well-known, one of the top agencies in the country, NYPD, and it is an honor for us. I love NYPD. In fact, when we went to Puerto Rico, we flew into New York, and I bought a bunch of these shot glasses.
Nice. Those are so cool. I'll have to send you some patches too. I don't collect them. Like people always ask me for patches and challenge coins, but I can get you patches and send them to you if you want them.
Yes, we would love patches because am building a patch collection. I have a bunch that I'd gotten in that I have what do they call those? Shadow box that I'm starting.
Hmm.
I have two. One is in honor of my cousin, and the other one is to honor all of the departments that have sent us patches and the people that we traded patches with. We do have podcast patches, and also we have a patch for the foundation, and we have challenge coins too. So
That's awesome.
if you send us some patches, we'll send you all that stuff.
Deal.
Yeah, you can get our address from Brienne, or just message or send us an email through the podcast email. Give us your information, and we'll send you all that stuff too.
Awesome.
But you got to send us some patches. We
I
love that.
promise.
That would be awesome. We love
Yeah,
that stuff.
totally.
So, and we'll definitely schedule with you. I know we got some other scheduling to do with some other members of the station as well.
Yeah, no rush. I'm here.
We
Hopefully.
we're pretty open. I know that we kind of get a little busy. We got other projects going on, so we haven't really revealed those projects, but we probably will as soon as everything is set. Uh,
That's exciting.
Brienne has another podcast that she does, the Beautifully Unplanned podcast.
I heard the first episode. I love the first story.
You should probably, I mean, you can listen to all of them, but episode 6 is very important.
Noted.
It's very important, and it involves um, kind of how we got involved with the radio station and other Christian.
Oh, okay. I'll download that one next.
Yeah, but she does a fabulous job with her podcast. She don't interview people on that one. A spoiler alert, though, we did kind of talk about doing another podcast in the future. It's called Beyond the Backroads. It's more about lost cities and ghost towns.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I don't know if you've heard the segment. Oh, you probably weren't on the radio station back then, but I told a segment about how my mom used to take us to Niles Canyon, and there was a ghost that was that had come out at night.
Stop it. Really?
Yeah, she was the woman in white, and she would come out at night, and people. There was police reports saying that people were wrecking because a woman would come out in the road hitching a ride, and they would see her and they would wreck. And my foster dad at the time, he was part of that department, and they would respond to calls for the wrecks. And they said the woman in white would come out, and
Wow.
there's
What
a
do you
lot of
put on
stories.
that accident report?
Yeah, like I saw a woman in the road, and she disappeared. Basically.
Right.
But she had actually passed away or died somewhere in the 50s, late 60s, or early 60s, late 50s. I think 59. I think.
And they know who she was?
She was a gal that was traveling to San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
They don't know exactly who she was. They just found evidence that was linking her trying to travel to San Francisco.
That sounds like an amazing podcast.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we will be working on pretty soon, and
That's
it's
awesome.
because there's a lot of things that a lot of ghost stories and stuff. I have ghost stories myself that I've seen personally, and ones that I've heard about from reputable people that wouldn't lie about things like that because they don't believe in that kind of thing. So,
Right. Oh, I can't you have to let me know when that comes out.
yeah. Hopefully within the next few months, we'll get that started as soon as we get all the other projects done and ready to go.
Nice.
That'll be the next thing to do. We'll be doing that in between these podcasts. And her
That
and I will do that together. So it's going to be her and I narrating that.
that's awesome.
They'll be on the back roads.
I'll be on the lookout for it.
Yep. Lost cities, ghost stories, things like that.
That's so cool.
But yeah, it's pretty awesome. Anyhow, it was great to have you on here. And it has been an honor. This is the first time we've had an NYPD officer come on our podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So you're the very first one. And that's
That's
so
awesome.
awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. You're very welcome. And we appreciate having you on here and sharing your story. And we will get with you about coming onto your podcast, and
Please, that would be great.
you can ask us our story or whatever it is that you do on your podcast. We'll oblige.
Cool.
So that's all I have for you today. And hopefully we'll be getting back with you soon.
Definitely.
So you have a good night.
You
Stay
too. Thank you
safe.
guys so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. That was Dena Campbell. She's NYPD. She definitely had a wonderful story to tell us. And we talked a little bit about the stigma of mental health. And now she is helping to combat that mental health stigma, which is amazing. And that's what we love to hear. We want to combat the mental health stigma for all of our first responders because we don't want any first responder to think that they are alone in this. There are a lot of us out here that have resources, that are connected to resources. And if you need those resources, reach out and we will find you the best help possible. All right, everybody. This is 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. I'm your host, Rico. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. And please keep tuning in and check out the Patreon. And you can check out more of our guests and you can see more content. We do have more merch coming out for the Thin Line Rock Station. Also, we have other projects going on, so stay tuned and keep on watching. Thank you guys. Be safe. We love you all and don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to another week and another episode of 8158 Podcast. Love you and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who served, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.